I have a little quote on my wall that says, "Edit your life frequently and ruthlessly. It's your masterpiece after all." In these times, that is when that editing comes to surface, because when we are stuck in the daily grind, sometimes we know what we need to do. We know that we're not happy in a certain situation. We know that change is necessary, but it's so painful that we don't want to take that plunge.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Yellow Van Stories, your interview podcast starring a rusty French car by the name of Fonzie. I am your host and driver, Bastian. Every week, I invite creatives from all over the world into the van to explore with them the opportunities hidden within a crisis. We have been waiting just for you and kept you a seat by the window side. Also because, technically, there are no others. Feel free to order any imaginary beverage that strikes your fancy. Fonzie's in first gear already, and we are good to go. So buckle up and get comfortable, because today we're going to Mexico. And here with me today is the poet and writer and creative mind, Engeli Haupt, with me. And I am very happy to have you here with me, Engeli. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Basti. Thanks for having me.
It is wonderful to have you because we go way back, actually, 20 years, still counting, right?
It's been forever.
That sounded a little heavy there for a moment.
No, but it's a lifetime ago.
It is, isn't it? It's amazing, actually, how time has passed. So, as always, before I explain to everybody listening in how I know Angalee and how why we are so fond of each other and stuck around each other for 20 years, sometimes more, sometimes less. We will clear all of that up in the course of the show. Now, the first thing that I always ask is, what drink did you pour yourself? I know that we have an immense time difference of 7 hours, I believe it is. So I couldn't really expect you to pour yourself anything alcoholic. Otherwise, you would be exposing yourself as an alcoholic, I suppose. So what is your usual morning drink then?
Well, my morning drink is a cappuccino with soy milk. So,
all right,
that is my drink of choice, and unfortunately, I've already gulped it down.
It's a little bit like me as well, because the thing is, I obviously, because you don't drink alcohol, I mean, I'm not going to just sit here and drink by myself. That's also terrible. So but because I thought the show has to have the flavor of Mexico, at least, because that's where you are right now. I wanted to pour myself something like a Mexican drink, and I came up with this virgin Mexican mojito, which is honey and lime juice, tonic water mixed with jalapenos on ice with a sprinkle of salt. And it's super nice. It's super nice. I can recommend it. Yes, I'll put the recipe in the show notes for anyone who's interested. So can I ask you, where are you right now, Angalee?
So I'm in Valle de Bravo, which is about 2 hours from Mexico City.
All right. Is that a big city? Is that a little outside?
No, it's a little town. It's a very cute little town surrounded by forest, and there's a lake, which is kind of the main attraction, I'd say. Mm-hmm. And it's a very popular weekend destination for people who live in the city.
All right. So it's a nice landscape. It's really something to let your mind give it a bit of space.
Absolutely. Like a lot of peace and quiet.
The perfect setting for any writer, really.
Definitely.
Perfect then. Can you describe your environment, like the room where you're in right now?
Okay, so
Cheers, by the way. Sorry, we didn't even do that. Cheers to good drinks and good friendships.
salud.
Salud. Exactly.
So, well, I'm sitting on the floor in my room, actually, next to my desk, because I thought I just wanted to get comfy with you. So I'm sitting on a big cushion, and my room is painted white, although it's not plastered. It's got this brick look to it. And the wooden beams of the roof are not covered either. Like there's no ceiling. So it's got this rustic look to it.
Nice.
And I'm looking out the window and I can see a little hill of trees and some clouds. And Toffee, my dog, is lying asleep next to me on the one side. And I think my cat is under the covers on my bed.
So they're both having a lazy Saturday, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's how we should all do it. You know, we can learn so much from animals. What can I say? If you think of that sounds very comfortable. First of all, exactly, especially the big cushion, as I must say, and also the wooden beams, super nice. And then knowing that you're somewhere in the forest, I am a little jealous even.
Hopefully one day you can come and see it in person.
That is the plan. I really, like Mexico is definitely a place of where I desire to travel. And I think it's been too long already anyway, and we definitely have to work something out. I'm absolutely with you. I'd love to come.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite thing in the room? If you had to pick anything, and, thing, like you're not allowed to pick Toffee or your cat. What's your cat's name?
Matieves.
Matieves. Okay, so there's still a bit of Afrikaans going on there, despite all the Mexican influence.
I would say my favorite thing right now, like if I look right in front of me, there is an old typewriter and a chair that I bought very recently as a present to myself.
Nice. Is it fully functional still?
It is. I got it because I wanted to actually type up some things that I've written, like little notes to myself, and have them framed for my new place. So yeah, it works perfectly.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Very, very nice, especially because, and I'm going to get into that because of how I see your style of writing. I think it is very, very fitting as well. Also, I have this warm, fuzzy feeling when it comes to typewriters for some reason.
Right.
It is the old analog times. I don't know. For some reason, I think we're all prone to nostalgia. And that's okay as long as we don't say everything was better back in the days. I think that's totally fine.
What I like most is that it really requires your full attention. Like you have to be present when you're using a typewriter, especially if you're trying to type something up that you want to like be seen, because there's no backspace, right? And really, I can't type as fast as I usually do because you really have to hit the keys. So it's a matter of like paying attention and giving each letter its due attention,
Yeah, so it's actually much more like a mechanical experience as well, and like a physical experience of writing,
embodied. Yeah.
Yes. No, I love that. Also, typewriters, I think they have that just the same as also analog cameras have that for me as well. So, we pick the tools that we work with the most.
A great analogy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So what I usually do, now that we got all of that out of the way, I write a personal introduction to all the guests, for the listeners to get a bit of an idea, who I'm talking to also show what you're doing a little bit, just to give a bit of a background, so that we can then take the conversation a little further. And so I just gather some information. I fill in some of my own things. And so at the end, when I'm done, I'm reading it out. You just tell me if you approve of everything that I've written, if you would challenge some of the things, or if you would even say this is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard, right? All of it is equally valid. And we will discuss all of that once I've reached the end. Are you okay with that?
I'm intrigued.
You're intrigued. That's a very good general feeling to start anything with. So then I would just start going. All right?
All right.
All right, here it goes. Angalee was born in South Africa and grew up in the capital, Pretoria. Now, this is actually the first point of discussion. I'm not sure if you grew up in Pretoria, actually. Did you? Or did you?
Just outside Pretoria. Still
fair
quite
enough.
Accurate, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, accurate enough for me then. She studied linguistics at UNISA, which is the biggest university of the country that counts amongst its alumni Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. 16 years ago, Angalee moved to Mexico due to her love for the Spanish language and most of all due to her adventurous and curious spirit. During this time, she has been working in English language teaching in various roles. At the moment, she works as a materials writer. That means she develops the reading and study material for language students. But this is only the commercial side of Angalee's work. Angalee is a gifted poet and creative writer. Her poems are like word sculptures. And what I mean by that is that the visual placement of words on a blank page is as important as the semantic arrangement. In that sense, Angalee forms a shape of meaning out of the preconceived pattern of language to offer infinite interpretational space and infinite views of the same old thing. Angalee finds beautiful ways to pacify opposites in her work. One example is how she explores the blind spots in science while at the same time aestheticizing science itself. She manages to reconcile measurable data with a plea for the unruly mysticism of nature and existence outside of human projection as a force on its own. This is a strong recurring theme in Angalee's work. Her short stories are wonderful examples of creative nonfiction writing, always self-reflective and bent on personal insight. It is by maintaining a healthy and critical distance to her own thought process that her stories unfold their universal power. It is Angalee's search for meaning that is most inspiring, placing a state of perpetual examination above a state of short-lived certainty. Right now, Angalee is part of the Writers Studio program at the Canadian Simon Fraser University, where she's being mentored in creative nonfiction writing by the accomplished author Claudia Cornwall, an author especially well known for her memoir works in which she examines personal as well as collective memory. I personally can't wait to reap the fruits of their collaboration as an enthralled reader of Angalee's work. Angalee's and my story goes back 20 years when we met in London and lived in the same house for a couple of months. Her warmth and gentleness got me through the bleak London winter days, the experience laying the groundwork for a lifelong friendship. And if you want to find out why Angalee thinks of her mother as an exceptional cook, despite having little love for her dishes, then you got to stay on with us for a little while longer. So, welcome again to the show, Angalee. So what do you think of that?
I think you're the poet. I think you're the poet and I should be interviewing you.
Okay, this would be getting out of hand if that happened, of course. But no, like, is there anything that struck you where you were like, I don't know, like he's just making this up?
No, I think you get me, Basti.
That's all a human being can hope for, I believe, like on both sides. All right. Nice. All right. So also to put this in a general time frame here, we're having this conversation after just, I think, an hour ago, Joe Biden was announced the new United States president. Now I'm wondering, because of the, even though this should be too political, but it is interesting nonetheless. How have you been following this, seeing that Mexico and Trump have had a very special relationship over the last 4 years? The United States and Mexico in general, I would say. How have you followed the presidential elections, and how would you say has Mexico been following the presidential elections in the US?
I can speak for myself personally. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess I do have a general sense of Mexico's feelings towards Trump, and I think they're similar to mine. I mean, I think the thing that kind of scares me the most about Trump isn't even the border relations and the wall and all of that. I mean, I just think for the environment as a whole, Trump as president would have been disastrous. I mean, I think we're kind of at a moment in time where we really need to be thinking of how we can repair all the damage we've done to the planet. And I think more than anything, that was my main concern with Trump having any more time in power.
Yes.
Yeah.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I've had this conversation also with Vicky, because Vicky also says that, you know, change has to come from the ground on up and not from top down. And I do agree with her to a large degree. I do believe, though, as well, that it is both. It is one causing the other. There is like a synergetic connection between
absolutely.
both.
I absolutely believe that as individuals, we have to do everything we can, and like all the small little actions do add up. But there are these large systems that are very difficult to change if you don't have the right people involved, let's say.
And also it will take longer. And I think especially when it comes to something like climate, you don't have a lot of time. So anything to take a shortcut or to make it last a little less long is more than welcome, I think.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's good. Now that we got Trump out of the way, in so many ways, I hope. Not that this is going to change the world overnight. Not that this is going to, you know, there's still other things to keep in mind and to be active about and stuff. Like, you know, it's also not like, because this is, when you think about this lately, is like with this one decision, with this one election, the world is going to be different again. I don't think that's what it is either. It's just a little more hopeful than it was maybe yesterday. But
I think there's just, I don't know, with Trump, it feels like every day there's one or other negative comment that the world has to digest.
Yes.
And I think just kind of not having that negativity in the spotlight, you know, taking central stage day after day is already a win.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. Let's look at it that way. So that's wonderful. That's great news. That's a very positive feeling in that sense to set out with. And now we turn our attention more to the creative aspect of some of these things as well. So let me start or continue with this, because the podcast, as you know, I don't know if it has been obvious enough, but this podcast is about the transformational power of art. Having been instigated by the COVID pandemic, the question was, how can we reap something positive out of all of this? And for me, art has been that force that kept me, that I always say it helped me keep my sanity. So in all of this, the positive change that a lot of people are looking for, I do believe that art has that transformational power. And I wanted to know from you, how is art transformative for you? How do you feel? Where do you think its power lies? How can it be used in a transformational way? Wow. I know that's a very loaded question.
Well, something comes to mind. So at the beginning of this writer's studio that I'm doing, we kind of had to, express somehow what writing means to us, and I'm gonna have to get back to you on who said this, but one of the fellow writers
You can mail me. Don't worry. You can mail me.
described writing as a form of exorcism. And it just really spoke to me. Like, to me, it's kind of channeling things that I might not otherwise know how to extract, let's say. Writing is kind of a form of meditation sometimes, in the sense that sometimes it's hard work and I sit and I slave away and I, copy, cut, paste, write as, hard work, almost manual labor. But other times it's just something that kind of flows, and something comes out and I read it, and it's kind of, so it's almost like a surprise. Like, where did that come from? Like, was that even me? Like, I didn't even know that was inside me somehow.
Yes.
So I think writing has many functions, and art in general, like it takes so many forms, and sometimes it's just connecting with emotions. Sometimes through writing, I can understand the way I think better, or understand the world around me, because I do a lot of research in many of the things I write about. And so, it's this multifaceted thing. And I think art is always that, because there's also the community side. So when I write, I kind of I express things that are true for me, but then I hope that when someone reads it, they will find their own experience in my words, even though, like, I know, like, there's this whole history of analyzing literature and poetry and kind of dissecting words to death and trying to say, finding the bigger meaning in each author and their work and all of that. And that's wonderful. But I kind of just want my readers to find whatever speaks to them. Like, if any of it speaks to them, I'm happy to share my writing. And I think right now, I think that might be the most important purpose of art, is finding that connection with others. And as a reader throughout my life, there have been books at different moments in my life where I just felt like, wow, I'm not alone, like other people are having the shared experience, or they're feeling the same things, thinking about the same things as I am. Maybe even if I struggle at times to find that connection in the people around me. I think,
what you're saying, I agree with, of course. What I mean, of course, but I agree with that. And not that there's anything to be disagreed or disagreed upon anyway. But so the way that you're describing it is also this exorcism. It is something that concerns yourself first and foremost. Like, whoever is creating this piece, this form of expression. And would you then also say that instead of looking how to, transform the world around you, that art first and foremost, and maybe most importantly, has to first transform you before it could actually be considered of a transformative nature for your environment? If you know what I mean.
I love that comment. I think I can only write about what I know, and all I know is me and my experience. I know the world through my eyes and through my experience. And even though I'm very curious and I love to explore so many different aspects of the world around me, ultimately, I am not. I'm not looking to tell anyone else's story. I don't know, like that comes out wrong, but but I can only speak for
No,
myself.
keep going. Don't worry.
Like I can only say what's true for me, and I think in like on a bigger level, let's like take the macro view of things, art and maybe just life in general. Like, why are we ultimately here? Well, I I would love to make a positive change in the world, but I don't think, for me at least, that involves trying to convert anyone, trying to change anyone around me by telling them to change, or like, I think my activism or growth or spirituality lies in figuring myself out, first of all, because when I am at peace with myself, without even trying to, I think other people can reap the benefits. And I think if everyone could just kind of try to do a little bit of work internally, it would just manifest tenfold in the outside world.
Yes. Yes,
I yeah.
I think you touch on something very important. I think the way that what it makes me think about is, if you don't understand yourself of the transformation, being part of the transformation, being transformed as well by whatever it is that you are doing, that you are creating, you will very easily become a preacher rather than a transformer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean the transformer as in Marvel's Transformers, of course, but they're not even Marvels. No, what is it? Anyway,
Yeah.
it escaping me. But those,
Yeah.
Bumblebee and the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I think this is a very, very easy trap that you can fall into, right? If you feel that you're doing it to transform the world around you without realizing that you are being transformed by whatever it is that you're doing as well, and that you are part of the problem as well as of the solution like everybody else, then I think you can very easily become preachy. I think that's what I feel after what you have just said.
I can't agree more.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
So then here we go. We end this interview. It was fun having you on the show.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Shortest podcast so far. Well done, Engeli. Excellent stuff. Good work. But because we spoke of Donald Trump earlier, and I think it is important and interesting in that sense to have Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, in that sense, I read the other day that he is not responsible for the polarization of the American society, and I do believe that as well. That polarization has been happening for years and decades already. It is inherent in the political system and so on, without going into too much detail. But what you see is that people are drifting further and further apart, and they do not talk to each other anymore. It is becoming to feel like you're either with me or you're against me. And there is no common ground anywhere in between anymore. And this is something that we see in a lot of countries, not just in the United States. We see it in a lot of ways and in changing, shades of gray as well. But it's all drifting more towards a black and white. And I had Jim on the show, a very good friend of mine, and he said that in order to amend the split, this drifting apart, that's where he sees the role of the arts, to build that bridge, to talk to people who are of opposite opinions, if you will. Now, the question for me that is interesting in that sense is, how would you talk to people that are opposite, but who have like a very fundamentally different point of view to your own? How do you reach out to them? How do you communicate them? What would be your preferred way or method, or how do you see that to be possible?
Well, I think, yeah, the arts can kind of bridge that gap. Because, yeah, I think you're right. Currently, there's a very big us and them mentality in the world. And ultimately, art kind of showcases, I guess, the human experience and the things that we all share. If you look at the classics or like the most moving pieces of art, they all touch something really human, universal. Like no matter what their specificity, it all comes down to a shared human experience once again. And I would like to think that that is something that anyone could somehow relate to, Yeah, I'm not sure.
I know, and that is the thing. If it were all so simple, this is obviously something that has to be explored, something that has to be explored together as well. This is one of the points why I find it so interesting to have these interviews as well, because I don't know, and everybody whatever they do, like you are writing, others paint. I try and dabble in photography a little bit and filmmaking. So and those are different tools, but I do believe having different tools, you also have a different way of getting closer to something that you are exploring. You have different methodologies, and in bundling them up, it becomes very interesting, I think, what possibilities there are.
I think also, instead of I think it's easy for us all to think that we are right, we are on the good side, we are on the right side. If only we can show them. How do we show them? But maybe what needs to be done is that we need to listen more and open ourselves more to other points of view and find the humanity in the otherness. And I think that is an important part of art as well. And I think in writing, that is something that lends itself to that. And when you're creating characters, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing nonfiction, you have to somehow learn to inhabit the other point of view. And yeah, maybe more than trying to get the others to understand us, we need to make the effort to listen more, to open ourselves more to different points of view and find the humanity. For me, that has been the challenge.
Yes, it's I think it has to first start also with us stopping to condemn anybody that stands on, not the same patch of land as I do. I think that's important. I think this is also, and this is no matter where you turn these days. It's very easy to say that they are doing that and we are doing this. First of all, in that rhetoric, you already have that separation, that split, reconfirmed over and over again. And in condemning, one other part, one other group, you will definitely not be able to build any kind of bridge. And rather, embrace the opposite as also realizing without this opposite, if you so want to see it, there would be no shaping of myself in that kind of way. I would not have such a clear path cut out for myself if it weren't for those opposites, if it weren't for the other points of view, the other opinions. They are as much constructive and working on me as everything that I confirm and agree with, to the same extent. And therefore, you have to embrace them equally. I think this is what it is. And once you do that and you stop the condemning, then with everything you do, with everything you say, with everything you create, when you have that sponsoring thought in mind, I think this is when you can build bridges and be transformational with what you do.
I love how you bring identity into it, because yes, I think it's one of those things where we very much realize or see or sort of state who we are with experiences that bring to light what we are not. And and I think there are so many triggers. I think triggers, that's the word. Like there are so
Yes.
many triggers for all of us, and we're constantly just coming up against these things that trigger us in so many ways that it's impossible to listen, to observe, to kind of
Yes.
stay calm in this other presence. And I think if we can just learn to observe ourselves and to ask ourselves, okay, why is this causing so much dissonance for me? And like, what can I do within myself to sort of remain steady and give this other view, perspective, person their space?
Yes.
I think it kind of starts from there.
Yes, I think it does start from there, and it is yes, and to realize, as you've pointed out, and as I'm pointing out now as well, those triggers, like you just said, they're all equally important. Like this idea that we are constantly the conscious creators of who we are and our personality and character. I do believe that is a little bit of a myth. I think we are a lot more shaped also by outside influences. Not to say I'm a big believer in free will as well, but I also do believe in subconscious, personality.
And cognitive biases. I mean,
Absolutely.
we are shaped by so many things that we don't even see as being around us, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So many. And sometimes you also just have to pause and go, why do I believe that? And be always aware of how flawed your view of the world might be. And I think the best indication of how flawed your view of the world is the more anger and the more dissatisfaction you carry inside of you. I do believe that is a good indicator. And because I am not in the nirvana yet, and I'm very upset with certain things sometimes, and I also do get angry from time to time, more than I would like. I do realize though that, there must be some fault in my thinking as well, because I do believe that if I were to just, keep an open mind towards everything, nothing would really bother me. So this is a good indication that I am, I have still a lot to learn, and that in whatever I do, I need to first and foremost transform myself with the examination that is part of what I do. Like you just said, the research, the trying to understand, the reaching out to the other side, to other realities, to educate myself to be able to be part of the transformation that I'm looking for. And it first and foremost starts with me.
It's quite ironic, because I think what most people who have similar points of view kind of are asking for is empathy.
Yes.
But we are finding it hard ourselves to give empathy to people who don't share our points of view. So it's one of those ironies.
It's like people have to earn our empathy by agreeing with us sometimes, right? It's like it feels like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was I would like to, because this is already very good, and I am just wanted to also bring back your life reality a little bit into it, and I was reminded of that because now I got to the part of my drink where the jalapenos are just coming out a little more, reminding me of the taste of Mexico. So I wanted to ask you, first and foremost, I enjoy saying that today, it seems. First and foremost, is another classic that I use a lot. So how is it? How would you describe the situation in Mexico right now with the whole pandemic? Now we've talked about the
Oh.
transformational power of art and everything, and reason is also to see how do we see this crisis or any other crisis, and at least believe in
Mhm.
turning it into something positive. I think that the belief in that is first and foremost the most important thing. So how is the situation in Mexico right now?
Well, it's pretty tough for a lot of people. I mean, the economy has been hard hit as it has in many places. But in Mexico, unlike Europe or the US or Canada, etc., there isn't much government support. So, I mean,
Are you in lockdown at the moment? What is that situation
okay,
like?
so that is also another difference in Mexico. Like nothing has been strictly enforced because there are just too many people who rely on going out into the street to make a living and to feed their families. So the
Hmm.
government hasn't said, okay, you're not allowed to go outside, because basically it cannot provide the support to keep people afloat to stay at home or not to go to work. So uh, it's a bit of a tricky situation because, well, like everywhere, we're trying to balance the economic side of things with the health side of things, and many people kind of have to choose between two evils, right? Like either you go hungry or you take your chances with the virus.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
yeah, the
suppose as
leadership.
everywhere else, for some people,
Mhm.
for the wealthy class, it is much easier to deal with that and to stay safe, and
Exactly.
for like everywhere else, and the working class, working population, and the poorer people, they are really taking the brunt in this very much.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's the case. And yeah, also the leadership hasn't been that great about communicating to the population, like how to, like it took forever to actually for the president to to say, yeah, you should probably wear a mask.
Probably. That is a very nice qualifier in that in that context.
So,
Probably.
I
You
mean,
know.
now I think people are kind of catching on, and here in Valle de Bravo, they have just kind of publicly announced that mask wearing will be obligatory starting the 16th of this month. So I see that as something positive. But in many places of Mexico, it's not obligatory and it's just advised. So,
Does it cause any social unrest in Mexico? I mean, that as far as I know, Mexico is there is some social unrest regardless of Corona because of
mhm.
the different classes, the wealth divide, and so on and so on. Of course, but
um,
has it become more or the same?
I'm not aware of any like a mask related protests or anything like that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's been a very trying time for Mexico with budgets being cut. And unfortunately, for example, something that really upsets me is that they've cut uh, the government budget for science. But they will maintain the budget for like immigration control and border control.
Mhm. Okay.
And so education and science are like the two areas that are suffering the most.
Mhm.
And somehow, politicians are still directing funds to the army and border
Yes,
control.
it seems
So
no matter what is happening anywhere, there's always money for the army. Like isn't that isn't that just something that is always striking again? Like it doesn't matter. Like it's too much for this social project, but the army, there's always money for it there. It is kind of repeating itself over and over again. So I think that also shows us that you know we're just sometimes putting our focus maybe not exactly in the best places.
yeah, and I mean, not to even mention the arts, like the
Yes.
funding for the arts in Mexico.
Hmm. Yeah, I was
Just,
going to ask you exactly. Like, is there any support there?
I
How
mean,
first of all, how are you
there
doing?
used to be.
There used to be, and now because of the COVID pandemic, it's gotten less. Or was
Um,
that something that was already before the time?
I mean, it was starting before, but
Hmm.
now with COVID, I mean, the future of the arts in Mexico is very uncertain.
Okay.
Mhm.
So how have you been affected personally by it?
I
Have you
have
did
I have been so fortunate, Basti. I cannot believe my blessings. It's been a wonderful year for me work-wise, with the work I do in education. So
Mhm.
um, I have been very, very lucky in that sense.
That's wonderful. First of all, that's wonderful. I'm very, very happy to hear that. Because yeah, I hear, most of the people that I talk to, they do feel the brunt of it, of course.
Yeah.
Also here in Germany, where I'm right now, it is especially people working in events, and
Hmm.
I'm going to have an interview soon with an actress friend of mine. A lot of like theater productions got cancelled,
I mean,
and
tough times, tough
yes,
times.
there is some. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is Germany, so there is a lot of help coming from stateside as
Hmm.
well. But it doesn't change the fact that for a lot of people, this is an absolute existential fight that they are, having to deal with right now. So this is difficult, but I imagine it to be. I mean, even so much more difficult if you
Hmm.
have no support whatsoever, no financial
Yeah, I mean,
benefits or subsidies.
I'm a freelance writer, so
Yeah.
when all of this started, I got a little bit nervous.
Well, I mean,
I
with good reason.
um, but yeah, somehow things have continued to come my way, so I'm
Nice.
very grateful. Yeah.
I'm very glad to hear that. So, in all of this that's been going on, because I have had my, like I said earlier already, as well as for me, there's a lot of solace and a lot of the beautiful things that I see in a lot of beautiful creative ideas that I see that people have because of lockdowns or other things. Where I believe some of these ideas would have not been born if there
Hmm.
hadn't been lockdown. For however negative it can be viewed, it also gave birth to some beautiful, beautiful human ideas and exchanges, despite their limitations. So, have you come in all of this since March or April? Have you come across anything? First of all, a piece of art that has carried you through it, something that inspired you, and also have you had any kind of experience that is serving you as an inspirational memory in all of this?
So I would say the biggest influence for me this year has been Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, which is a book
Hmm.
slash course. And
Julia Cameron.
I believe so.
Well, you can. All
I'll
right.
double check.
Yes, yes. We'll get back in touch afterwards, and then
Okay.
we.
Um, So basically, it's
Your people will phone my people, right? That's how we'll do it. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I'll get my guy to call your guy, like,
Excellent. Yes. Just same pipeline, just keep it in the same pipeline. Yeah.
So it's this 12-week program with a daily exercise and writing practice. And it's not just for writers. I really recommend it to anyone trying to explore their own creativity in any way.
Is this an online course or what is it?
No, I bought it as a Kindle book, but it's in book format. So
I see. So it's like a self.
It's like guided exercises you work through.
All right.
Like with a little chapter that you read, and then these little daily tasks.
All right.
And so I started doing that in May, and it's been so productive. Just, really useful questions to ask yourself. And a lot of it has to do with fear and insecurity and understanding where they come from, and just kind of finding your creative purpose. So I've already.
So this is sorry for
a few people.
all right, sorry for interfering there. Just quickly, because I think so. This is a book just for anybody, right? Because
Anybody,
I also
really.
because I also want to get away from this. I feel sometimes I want to get away from this feeling that this is like an elitarian kind of podcast about artists and art, and you went to art school. I don't mean that in the slightest.
Artist mold,
Exactly. I mean this as in we are all artists and we are all creative and we all carry that transformational power in us. This is how I really mean it. So this is why this book, why I'm asking. So this is just for your anyone really who is looking for creative expression in one way or another. Excellent.
So yes. That has definitely influenced me, and it helped me to establish a daily writing practice.
All right.
Which is very important if you're trying to write a book.
You don't say. That comes as a surprise.
So
it helps you also to turn whatever you do into a routine. I think that is super important.
Yeah.
So if the book manages to do that, this is a very big step for mankind and for that single
anything.
All right, nice. I will definitely link to that. You have to give me the full details.
Will do. So that has been one big part of my creative journey this year, and the other big part, I would say, is my current living situation with my mom and sister. So I had been quite a bit of a hermit for the last 3 years prior to COVID.
Living in the woods, from what I gathered.
Yeah.
Right?
And so my mom and sister came to visit me. I was actually going to move to Vancouver in March. And so they came to visit before my plans fell through
because of the pandemic as well.
Yeah,
because of that. Oh, really?
But I'm so grateful they did, because it's the first time in 20 years that we live in the same country, never mind share the same house, and it's been really a beautiful experience, challenging at times. But I think that it's kind of fed many of the things I've written about as well.
Well, also knowing that you write creative nonfiction writing, and a lot of your things are, I wouldn't say autobiographical, but they are very much rooted in your own personal experiences.
Absolutely.
So I'm absolutely convinced that influenced your writing, inspired it very much.
So yeah, I would like to thank them for this experience as well, giving me so much more to write about and to think about.
Are you going to upload any of your nice new works anywhere on the internet so that people can read it?
I've been uploading some things on Medium and Instagram. Because I'm working on a book, I'm kind of holding out a bit with my stories, but I will continue to publish some of my poetry.
Little teasers, maybe, of sorts. Okay. And can you tell us a little more about the book? Is this something that was also inspired by your new living situation?
Well, it is... it's still a work in progress, so I kind of have an idea
I see. You have a non-disclosure agreement with yourself.
Not at all. It's more I'm still discovering it. So basically, it's going to be a collection of essays more than a memoir. And I've written 2 chapters so far.
All right. Hey, that's more chapters. That's 2 more chapters than I've ever written. So, so that's great.
And it's kind of it started off as a very ambitious idea. You know, I wanted to write about the world, the universe, and everything else. And now I'm kind of reining it in.
So you wanted to answer all important life questions with one piece of work, basically.
Yes,
right?
You know.
I do that all the time as well. So I think this is one of the biggest artistic misconceptions, that with one work, one ring will bind them all.
So now I'm like, okay.
I'm so glad this happens to other people as well. I felt it's just me every time. It's like the giant leap I'm looking for. I think that's a great realization, though, as well. For me, the older I get, the more I realize, no, it's the small steps. Like, just baby steps, dude. Baby steps.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And it's just... a friend of mine said it to me recently. Sometimes it's in the specificity. Like, you can address those giant questions and those humongous universal topics in the specifics, in the little details. And now I'm approaching it kind of the other way around, you know. So one of the first thing I wrote was a bit about identity, and the different ways we define ourselves, we delineate ourselves. And for me, that included, excuse me.
No problem. I'll cut that out or not. I don't know yet.
Sorry, we might have to cut that out. And for me, one part of that whole question of identity is around being a twin. So I wrote about that experience as well.
Interesting. Yes.
And then I recently started writing about attachment and love and...
No, I can totally see how you're shying away from the big questions in life and just taking on the small little ones. It's evident now. It is absolutely evident.
I'm trying to approach it in a way that's based on my story. So
yes, I understand. Instead of creating a story that is from the start universal and universally, accessible, you are just exploring it inside your own mind and what it means to you. And I think this is
my actual physical experience in the world.
Yes. Yeah. Which is something that I believe is so important, especially in our days with information and the sheer magnitude of information, also the sheer magnitude of misinformation. I do believe that, it's good for us to get back to a state where we value experiential knowledge a lot more than testimonial knowledge, because so much of what we have is testimonial knowledge, and we base all our views on that. And this is where most of us agree on.
I'm all about inhabiting my body these days, because I think for so long I just lived in my head. And now About 3 years ago, I started running, and there's just, oh my God, so much beauty in it, so much learning in it. Yeah, I've just found it to be this amazing, almost spiritual experience, to be honest.
That's beautiful, because I do believe our bodies are the true carriers of wisdom in that sense. We always turn to our mind and our thoughts when it comes to wisdom. I do believe the greater amount of wisdom really lies in our bodies, because this is what we can really hold true, I believe. More than, because it is based on, it is something that we really know for ourselves. It is something
And
we
I
can
think
really vouch for.
so many of us are, and myself included, a lot of the time, are so out of touch with our bodies, and we don't know. We don't take the time to pay attention to what our bodies are telling us. We don't take the time to take care of our bodies. Another really positive thing that's come out of this whole quarantine is, well, I've been a vegetarian for most of my life, but I took the leap and I am now basically plant-based in my eating habits. And my mom and sister were open enough to it to join me in this adventure. And honestly, I'm still just in shock at how good it's making me feel, and like the changes I've experienced in my body from just
So you cut out all dairy products and eggs and everything. So vegan, basically, completely
yes.
vegan.
I didn't want to use the V word, but yes.
Sorry to say, but the V word in other contexts means something entirely different. But let's not go there right now. But okay, yes.
I think a lot of people have a lot of resistance when they hear that word.
I understand. You're right, but that's that's everybody's. They have to deal with that. It is still a very valid explanation for what you're doing. It's a technical term as well, I think it's what it is. So okay, so you cut all of that. So how does it make you? Does it just make you? How would you pinpoint it? How would you say it makes you feel different?
Well, I just feel clean and healthy, and my skin has never looked better. Like, I always struggled with acne and skin issues, and literally my skin has just transformed.
Wow. Okay. And you feel more energetic as well?
Absolutely. And I mean, yeah, I'm just in good shape. Like, whoa, I've never been like this fit in my whole life.
This question I just asked sounded almost like the guy who is like, doing this for this advertorial, and you feel more energetic as well. I've been paid nothing, just for the record. Right? I've been paid nothing. There's no product placement, nothing. This is just sheer curiosity from my side. That's great. And why is it because of the lockdown? Because or because of the quarantine? Because you didn't go out to do the shopping, or how is this related?
Well, just sort of being in a very strict routine with my mum and Marley, and trying to be as healthy as possible, and not just for me, but for them as well. I'm the designated chef in the house. So just trying to be as healthy as possible, and not really having to really plan what we eat because we have it delivered. So, and just doing research about healthy diets, the immune system, and all of that is just it just became really evident that it was the way forward.
All right. And everybody is equally happy about these developments.
Oh yeah, like my mom used to have arthritis in her hands, and it disappeared after a month of the new diet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's really impressive.
I wasn't expecting it, and also like we went into it with a kind of like, oh, let's see how this goes. Maybe we'll just do it for a few days a week, like no pressure, because I hate putting pressure on myself. I'm so prone to,
especially right now. I mean, there's enough pressure on all of us as it stands anyway, right?
But then we just ended up loving it and like enjoying the food we're eating and just feeling so good with it that we're like, we had some cheat days initially, and now we're like, okay, we'll cheat on Saturday. And then Saturday comes and we're like, I don't really feel like having that. Do you? No. Okay. Let's just,
But this is the best way for change, I think, transformation. If it is really something that is absolutely just coming from within, and there is no outside pressure, nothing, and you really just do it for the goodness that it is for you. What
Absolutely.
could be better than that?
Because it makes me feel so good. It's one of those weird things. I mean, if I have to be honest, the first week was a little bit tough because I had a very terrible relationship with cheese. I just couldn't imagine. It was a very unhealthy, dependence of not being able to imagine myself as a happy individual without cheese in my life. But then,
I can relate to that.
I've been there in many different contexts. And, life goes on, and then you're like, fuck that. Thank you, universe, for taking cheese out of my life.
Who needs cheese, when they have their health? No, but that's wonderful. And you see, this is another example of how, some of this can also just absolutely lead to positive change, even though I do not believe this is necessarily something that everybody can see for themselves. But there are other outcomes for everyone and other decisions for everybody to take. So that's very nice. That's very inspiring. So this is definitely something that you will go forward with then in the next.
Absolutely. And I mean, not to do propaganda or anything, but a resource I found really useful is, and this is a non-profit site, is nutritionfacts.org. And it's not just about plant-based eating. It's about all kinds of health questions. But I really admire this doctor. He's called Dr. Greger, and he's put together this team of researchers, scientists, doctors, professionals who go through all the published research papers every year and try and make sense of it and kind of publish information that is more digestible and understandable for the layman and the wider public. And it's just so informative, really.
Nice. I will link to that as well. Anybody who's interested in how also, eating is an important part of our well-being. I mean, I'm stating the obvious here, I know, but I think that's the whole thing, that we don't always treat it like this. Exactly.
It's so understated. I mean,
absolutely.
For mental health, everything.
Yes. Which is why it is so important also that we have proper food laws in place and so on and so on. This is a whole other big topic that is something that is in Germany is being much discussed about how to make it easier for consumers also to identify the goodness of a product, what is in there. Sugar content is a very big issue as well, of course, and that's not just Germany, that's the world over, because sugar has become one of the cheapest ingredients you put in anywhere, and it has this immediate effect of self gratification. So so this is a very big problem. So yes, food is super important. And if we don't question things about how we take food in and where it comes from, it will definitely not be something that will be aligning with our well-being. That was a very long statement. Wow. Anyway,
I think it needed to be said. So
that was my job application for foodwatch.org. By the way, if anyone is listening in, please, I need a job desperately. Just going forward, I just have a few more questions. And how do you see, if you look around, I want to make it a little more specific in the beginning. If you look at Mexico, for instance, how do you think lies a dormant possibility for making the COVID pandemic something, turning it into, or seeing the possibility of turning it into something positive, or having at least also a positive outcome? I do not think that it's a question of either or. Like it will always be mixed. It will always be a very ambivalent whole.
Like anything.
Like anything, exactly. So the idea is not like, oh, now we found a solution. COVID is officially a very good thing. Obviously, it's not like that. But how can we put something positive in the place also of all the negativity that is coming out of it, all the strain that it puts on us, all the suffering that people go through? How can we put something positive in its place and something that we can put our focus on? And I'm asking you this now, especially also, where do you see that possibility in Mexico?
Well, I think it's always important to remember, and just this comes from my own experience, that before you can do a lot of building and growth, there needs to be a bit of destruction as well. And that's usually a painful process, whichever context you take that to happen in. And I think COVID, especially in Mexico, has caused a lot of breaking in certain systems, in routines, in ideas even of what people think they should be doing with their lives and how they should be living their lives. I know a lot of people who, well, let's just take like the example of someone who lives in Mexico City and who maybe might have had to commute 3 hours a day, and who is now working from home, maybe with their kids right there in the same room with them. Like, sure, there are many challenges, but I think people have been able to also get out of their sort of exhausting, blinding, numbing routines and focus on certain parts of their lives that maybe they weren't able to focus on before, like family. And I think this isn't just true for Mexico, but for everyone, that with social distancing and all of that, you've had to really think about who you spend your time with, who you trust, how you come together, who you make time for, who you don't make time for. And these are important things to think about. I have a little quote on my wall that says, "Edit your life frequently and ruthlessly. It's your masterpiece after all." And I can't remember who said that. It might have been from The Artist's Way. I'll have to check. But
that's very nice. I'm going to take note of that.
I think that is this, in these times, that is when that editing comes to surface, because when we are stuck in the daily grind, sometimes we know what we need to do. We know that we're not happy in a certain situation. We know that change is necessary, but it's so painful that we don't want to take that plunge. And sometimes when we're plunged into the depths of uncertainty and pain makes us wake up. It is what it is. Like, pain is a huge ingredient in growth.
It's a constructive force.
Yeah.
I mean, any poet would say that, obviously, but it's true nonetheless.
It is because it's true, you know. And
yes, absolutely.
And I think there is no big answer to this question. I think the answer is that we all need to examine ourselves in our lives and see what we can take from this experience. And I think, if anything, and one cliche more, sorry, but life is short.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Life is freaking short, and no one is going to hold you accountable for your moments of apathy, of laziness, of darkness, of whatever it is that is holding you back. You've only got yourself to hold yourself accountable for that, and to build whatever it is that you want around you. Stop waiting, people. That is my message. Just start with you. And if you change yourself, and I read, this is from, these are not my ideas, but if you change yourself, you will find that no other change is necessary.
That is very strong to me. Yes. It's coming right back to the transformation of self in the beginning, rather than, you know, transforming your environment. You're transforming yourself. I think it ties right back right back with that.
I mean, I do not mean don't act. We need to act. Do what needs to be done. You know, if you see injustice, try to set it right. If you can help someone, please do. That is not what I'm trying to say, but I think a lot of us have this false idea that it's all lies out there, you know, like the best investments with our time and energy are out there, scattered, dispersed on other people, on other things. But sometimes we like to think that just because turning inwards is so much harder.
Yes. Yes. Very, very, very well said. You do. I mean, you're showing off a little bit now, to be honest with you. Very, very, very strong, the way that you are also saying that your writing skills and everything are really shining through in this. It's beautiful to listen to you when you're making such a strong plea. I believe that, you know, and if for nothing else, after what you've just said, to just think of all the beautiful things that have seen the light of day because of some of the darkness that has been felt, or the pain, like you just described as well, which is a very strong creative force. That's Toffee, I believe, right?
That is.
Hello, Toffee.
I think my mom's letting her out now. So.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not bothered. She's right. Like, you know, I'm just thinking that, that in itself, to me, is some consolation, that without the personal pain of some, and maybe the greater pain of more sometimes, like in this, it also produces insight about who we are as human beings, what we are capable of, in the good sense, also in the bad sense sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I think the most memorable ones, and the things that inspire us more, they're the ones that surface also in times like these. And this is the wonderful thing, that if for nothing else, that in times like this pandemic, for instance, and others, the stories, the inspiring stories for another tomorrow are being born right now. And we will then see what comes out of that. It is another very slow way of evolution in that sense.
Beautifully
If
said. Can I
you
share
think so,
another
I'm
quote?
not sure anymore. I think I'm
I'm
just
looking at my
babbling.
wall, and it just seems so apt as well. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. Anais Nin.
A nice nin. Oh
Yeah.
yes, very
So,
nice, very
um,
nice.
and then the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. And I think we're right, we're at the cusp of something big.
That's beautiful. And even if it's just the feeling that we're on the cusp of something big,
Mm-hmm.
because I also do believe, if you look at history, I think in every day and age, there's always been people that thought they were on the cusp of something big. Either it was the apocalypse nearing, they were living in the black during the plague, which was a God sent, punishment for the ways of men, and so on and so on. I think this living on the cusp of a new and something overwhelming. I think this has been a fundamental human feeling as well, to be honest. That's my conviction. At the same time, it doesn't make it any more real because I feel it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it is exactly that feeling that we have to embrace to come up with something that is truly inspiring today and tomorrow and the day after that. And I think a lot is in that feeling that will already be the transformational change that we're looking for, the more I think about it.
I mean, the whole world has been built on feelings and ideas. Everything we believe in, everything.
Stories.
Yeah, they're all stories.
Yes. They're all
All of it.
stories that we instill with credibility or not. Or we believe in them because they inspire us. I think there's a lot of examples of that. You can open the Bible on any page, really. But not to say they're on some historical, I wouldn't go
Oh,
as far as go facts. Facts. I wouldn't go as far as go say
you're gonna
facts,
get
but
in trouble. I mean, the Bible is an incredible work of literature, if you ask.
it is. It is. However you think about it, whether you see it as the Holy Word, scripture, or just as a poetic work of fiction, it is still an amazing work of literature. Of course, of course, it is, and it is also one of the most concise body of work in any language most of the times. So yeah, it is an amazing piece of art. If I want to say that now, some some Catholics will probably switch off now, but that's okay. So be it. So I have one more question for you, Angalee, and then I think we have covered a lot of ground today. Last but not least, I would like to know from you, because was my teaser in the beginning a little bit. Why do you think that your mom is an extraordinary cook, despite you not really showing a lot of love for her dishes?
So I wrote this little essay about my mum, where I talk about how she raised us, and especially her relationship with my sister Marilee, who has cerebral palsy and is dependent on her. And just with the love.
What does that mean, cerebral palsy?
So basically, when she was born, she didn't get enough oxygen, and so parts of her brain died. And there were physical and cognitive effects because of that. And so she doesn't have a lot of mobility, and her muscles are very spastic. So she uses a wheelchair, and she needs help with daily activities. And it's just amazing to see the two of them in action. And so in my essay, my mom's cooking. Basically, I think. Oh, you probably have it open somewhere. Well,
I do have it in the neighboring room, to be honest. But
no worries. I mean, I don't want to quote myself.
well, I can. I'm getting it. I'm getting it right. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I am back. You know what? It's not very long. It's not very long, and I know I've put you in a spot here a little bit, right? I've put you a little bit in a spot here, which is a little unfair. But I think there is a wonderful way of ending our interview today is by me reading your story, like the whole thing. It's not long. Sorry, I just moved away from the mic. It's not long anyway. And if you are comfortable with me reading it, I would very much like to read it because it also shows this is a wonderful story and it ties in with what we are talking about and what this podcast is all about. How you embrace, challenges and also situations that you don't foresee and how they turn out to be actually a blessing. And something that is wonderful, despite maybe sometimes first appearances. And this is, I think, therefore a very inspiring story and very beautiful. And would very much like to read it with your permission, of course.
Absolutely.
So then, here we go. Does it actually have a story? Does it have a story? My God, get this guy off the microphone. I mean, does it have a title? Yes.
It is Without Addressing.
Without Addressing. So here is Without Addressing by Engeli Haupt. My mother can make a fluffy omelette. I mean, really fluffy. I remember how she would beat the egg whites with the handheld manual egg beater that had two whisks that moved together and reminded me of someone on a bicycle. Then the eggs would rise in the pan all the way to the lid, defying the laws of physics. She also makes a delicious apple crumble. When we were little, she would buy a big tin of apple slices from the local farmers' cooperation and then arrange them in the bottom of the round glass dish. The most important part was the whipped cream, also whipped with the same metal egg beater that made our hands hurt just before the cream reached the right consistency and tips formed as we lifted the beater. My mom's third signature dish is something quite exotic. I don't know where she got the recipe from or what it's called, but it definitely trumps the traditional Afrikaans, which is, the Dutch-related language spoken in South Africa, method of blandly boiling all vegetables. It involves sweet potato cooked with butter and sugar and layers of crumbled ginger cookies and sliced banana, all baked in the oven. It is the epitome of comfort food, and anywhere else in the world it would probably be served as a dessert and not a side. Definitely not a main. And that's it. Those are the three things that my mom makes. When my twin and I were in first grade, there was a bake sale. My mom made some cupcakes. We took them to school the next day, but they were so subpar that we said we had made them. After all, they weren't that bad for being 7-year-olds. Post-cupcake day, my mom always got assigned a different task. I don't remember telling lies as a child, but this one was to protect our family honor. I don't know exactly when the dry tuna salad phase came in, but it lasted too long. Far too long. My mom was very conservative when it came to dressings. When she made Greek tomato, cucumber, lettuce salad, there was no dressing to be seen. Perhaps I have become a foodie because of my mom's lack of interest in her cooking. Who knows? The fact that she managed to whip something up 3 times a day now seems like a superhuman feat. Most moms get to do the cooking and feeding for about 18 years. In my mom's case, it is a lifetime deal with Marley, 4 years younger than us. If mom ever minded, she has never shown it. It has always been about the small victories, like the first time Marley could drink from a straw. My mom is shorter than me and slender and pretty. Her Lebanese eyes are deep brown pools that she got from her grandfather. Everything about her is petite, except her biceps. Her arms grew as Marley grew. Marley, now fully grown, and my mum are a well-oiled machine. Each time Marley is lifted from her chair, my mum's biceps bulge, while Marley's spastic muscles jump in response. My mum's real strength does not lie between her shoulders and her elbows. I don't remember her wearing makeup at all when we were little. If she realized that she was beautiful, she never showed it. It's what's inside that counts, I remember her saying on more than one occasion. She always wore comfortable shoes, and yet there was an elegance about her. An elegance with hard edges. She would grab moths and spiders with her bare hands and pull baby calves out of bellowing cows. She grew up in the bushveld. Before she went to school, she had no friends. There were no children her age living in the vicinity. She could drive a pickup before she was tall enough to see all the way over the dashboard. It was this silent, flat, dry landscape, ridden with thorns, that shaped her and her dressing less salads. She was always soft-spoken when I was a kid. Even after sleepless nights, worried sick about Marley's grand mal seizures, she might have been tense or irritated, but she remained kind. She always treated us with a sprinkle of sweetness. At the very worst, she raised her voice. Underneath her outer shell, there was still a girl with the darkest sense of humor who giggled at life's absurdities. And when she did, she let it run until she was out of breath and didn't have the air to string a sentence together. She always did the right thing simply because it was the right thing to do. That was her staple. Her kind-heartedness was the olive oil, garlic, and honey mustard of our family life. Her values were quietly instilled in us over the years. It wasn't something she said. She didn't preach. It was simply her essence. Sometimes she would impart a piece of wisdom like, if you have nothing nice to say, keep it to yourself. But she's not a big talker. And that is how she lives. Sometimes I still wonder what she's thinking. It has taken me a long time to realize that my mum is an extraordinary cook. Only her domain of expertise lies outside the kitchen. It turns out that my sisters and I are her 3 true signature dishes. And with this, we will kind of sneak out of this week's episode, because what could be a greater ending than this? Thank you, Angalee, for joining us on the Yellow Van today, and thank you so much for allowing me to read that beautiful story of yours. All information about Angalee and her work you can find in the show notes, along with the relevant links to today's conversation. Thank you very much for coming along on the Yellow Van today. We hope you enjoyed your time on board with us. If you feel I missed some essential questions or follow-ups, like I'm sure I did, send them to us and we will pass them on to have them answered for you. If you have your own inspiring story to tell, or you know somebody who does, get in touch with us on www.yellowvanstories.com, where you can also leave us your general feedback or ideas for improvements. The hashtags for this show, learning on the job and stronger together, are no coincidence. If you want to support Fonzie with a bit of petrol money, you can do so on patreon.com/yellowvanstories. We hope to welcome you back next week for a brand new episode. We'll be keeping your seat and we'll be cooling that imaginary drink of your choice. Please note, a selection of teas and instant coffee is available as well. Until then, stay healthy, keep loving, and always remember, we're all in this together. Now, take it away, Jim.